Hi, I'm Wisu. Much of Animenz's music is quite challenging for many reasons. Today I want to talk about one reason. His music is often polyphonic. Polyphony, from the Greek words meaning many sounds or many voices, is exactly what it sounds like. Polyphonic music has multiple distinct lines, which you can think of as multiple instruments. Actually, the idea of polyphony, at least in the European music tradition, arose in the Middle Ages. Back then, there was a type of music called plain chant, which was associated with the church. These were sacred songs written in Latin that monks would sing in unison. Here's an example. This is Dies Irae, or Day of Wrath, probably the most well-known Gregorian chant. Dies irae, dies illa, solvet seclum in favilla, teste David cum Sibylla. So one day, one of the monks thought to himself, you know what? This is kind of boring. Why don't I try singing something different? So he improvised, and he figured out that if he sings a fifth below the melody, well, it sounds quite decent. Dies irae, dies illa, solvet seclum in favilla, teste David cum Sibylla. Now, what you just heard is not true polyphony because the voices are not independent. One is just a shifted version of the other. But the idea of multiple voices was innovative, and gradually over time, musicians began to use different intervals, change rhythms, and add more voices, until we eventually get true polyphony, where multiple independent voices are sung together. So this brings us back to the present. As pianists, we only have two hands, but we're often called upon to play polyphonic music that sometimes sounds like it's written for more hands than we have. In Animenz's music, he calls this the three-hand technique, and we see this a lot, especially in his harder transcriptions, such as this one, or this one, or this one, or this one. Obviously, he didn't invent this technique, so let's look to someone who's slightly closer to the source, J.S. Bach. Bach was known for many things. He had 2 wives and 20 children, only half of them survived into childhood. He once walked 280 miles across Germany to visit a fellow organist and composer Buxtehude. He also went to an eye surgeon known for blinding people. He got blinded and died shortly after. What else? Oh yeah, he's also widely regarded as one of the greatest Western composers ever. Forgot about that one. When pianists learn new music, we're often told, learn the right hand by itself, then the left hand, then put them together. This is fine, for example, if the right hand is the melody and the left hand is the accompaniment. But if we're playing Bach's music, we may be playing 2 or 3 musically distinct lines with the same hand. So it's often beneficial to learn and practice each line separately, rather than just hand separately, in order to get a better understanding of how the different lines fit together. So let's take a look at an example from Animenz, a passage from his transcription of My Dearest. Usually I don't like when transcriptions include extra fluff that's not in the original song, but here I'll make an exception, because Animenz quotes not 1, but 2 songs from the same anime, Guilty Crown, and it actually sounds pretty good. Here's the passage, starting on measure 91 in Animenz's score. First, let's look at the score and try to identify all the independent musical lines. We can see 4 voices, not just because I've color-coded them, but we can tell by the lengths of the notes as well as which way the stems point, up or down. Let's label these as soprano, alto, tenor, and bass, following the vocal convention. Now, to learn this section, we can practice different combinations of voices in the power set of voices. What is a power set? Let's think back to our discrete math class. A power set is the set of all subsets of a set. Don't worry about pulling your textbook out. I'll just tell you the answer. We have a set of 4 voices, S, A, T, B. The power set includes all combinations of 0 voices. Well, there's only one, the empty set. All combinations of 1 voice, S, A, T, and B. All combinations of 2 voices, S, A, S, T, S, B, A, T, A, B, and T, B. All combinations of 3 voices, and finally all combinations of 4 voices, which there's only one, SATB. Ideally, if you want to truly understand this music, you will want to be able to play all these combinations. Today we'll just go through a couple of them to get an idea of this process and why it might be helpful. First, I'll let you help me out by playing the empty set. Excellent, well done, sounded great. Now let's start with the bass voice, since it establishes the harmony. When we're doing this exercise, I recommend playing with the same fingering that you will use when playing all the notes. So in the case of the bass line, play all the notes with 5, your pinky. Well, I played it a little fast, but that's the bass line. This will establish the harmony for these 8 measures. Now let's do the tenor line in purple. This melody is from Bios, another song from Guilty Crown. One thing I want to point out is in measure 97, I use my right hand to play this G. That's because my left hand is 2 octaves away, playing the low G. So this is a case where a single voice needs to be played by both hands. And this might not be immediately obvious at first glance. So we have to realize that treble clef does not equal right hand and bass clef does not equal left hand. What we see on the page is just a convenient way to record the pitches and durations of notes. As pianists, it's our job to figure out how to best render these scribbles on the page into sound. Now let's play the soprano line in pink. This melody is also from Guilty Crown. It's from another song called Euterpe. Now, we've heard the 3 important lines, the bass line and 2 melodic lines. I'm skipping the alto line because it's not melodic. It's just extra filler that makes the song sound richer and also adds some difficulty. So now let's try 2 voices together, starting with the soprano and bass. That was pretty straightforward, but notice how with the bass, the melody feels like it was put in context. With 2 lines, there's harmony. It sounds richer and more complete, but it's not fully complete. Now let's do something more interesting. Soprano and tenor. These are both melodic lines. That was very pretty, with 2 melodies overlapping. It takes some effort to make 2 separate melodies overlap nicely without much dissonance, and I'm sure Animenz thought about this when choosing how to include these 2 melodies. But it feels like something is missing. This missing element is the bass line, so let's add that in. Now we have 3 voices. That sounded really nice. Actually, I would be perfectly happy if this was all that was written, but it's not. So if you're up for a challenge, try playing some other combinations of voices on your own before finally tackling all 4 voices at the same time. So that's how to learn polyphonic music, 1 voice at a time. By building up layer by layer, you can better understand how the different voices interact with each other, and you'll be able to distinguish them in your head as well as for your audience when it comes time to perform this piece. So if you enjoyed this video, please like it and leave some comments and subscribe for updates. I'll see you next time.